We have Ian from Tech2U in the studio with us. Hello, Ian.
Good morning.
Speaking of thinking, we asked the question, can you smell air? And we eventually determined, well, you can't even smell, if you can't access air, you can't smell anything. But of course, air does not have a smell. However, since Ian from Tech2U is here, and we are going to be talking about ChatGPT, I asked it that exact question. I didn't ask it, does air have odor? I didn't ask it, is there a scent? I asked it the exact question, can you smell air? And ChatGPT said, as an artificial intelligence language model, I don't have senses like a human does, so I can't smell or perceive the world in the same way. However, I can provide information on the topic of air and smell. Air itself does not have a smell. Okay, end of debate.
Ding, ding, ding.
But the presence of certain substances or particles in the air can give it a scent, blah, blah, blah.
Bam! What we said.
Exactly. Well, yes. In the very... Well, what was said after I made you all take a beat? The first thing that was said was, yeah, of course she is. And I went, are you sure?
No,
and
I right away said no.
No, you didn't.
By the way, yes, I did. Play it back.
We are going to talk more about artificial intelligence and take your tech questions as well. But actually, Ian is here to talk about RAD TV and our next RADurday on Saturday, June 17th, which at this point you're like, what does Ian have to do with that other than the fact that Tech2U is our partner with RAD TV?
Yeah, I helped build the whole thing.
So we're,
It's something.
but actually we're increasing his role because we came up with this idea because we were talking about the YouTube show Hot Ones, which is hosted by Sean Evans, and he's got a guest on. Sometimes he has two guests on, and they eat 10 chicken wings that are each prepared with a progressively hotter hot sauce. And while we were talking about it, Brandon said, hey, you know what? They actually sell the package of hot sauces. We could actually do this.
He doesn't talk like that.
Sometimes I do when we're talking about hot sauce.
And so we decided we were going to do a RAD TV version of it, because you want to talk about something that has to be visual. Doing any version of a Hot Ones, Hot Wings challenge is pretty stupid on the radio.
Yeah, the audio side of it is just very sensual. It really is.
Yeah. So on the regular show, after they take a bite, and then after each wing, and Sean's eating, the host is eating with him, he asks his guest an interview question, and so as the wings get hotter, the guests typically begin to display the effects of eating the spicier wings, etc. That's why it has to be on RAD TV. So as we were putting this together, we found out that, Ian, you've been doing this, like with friends.
Yeah, for years.
you host these parties.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Do you use his sauces, or do you go pick out sauces?
Yeah, I buy the seasoned sauces. So he has 20 seasons worth of sauces, and I've done multiple times. I've done the same season, but I've done it 6 times, and yeah, it doesn't get easier, but you guys will enjoy it. It's fun.
And you do it the exact same way. You eat the wings with your guests or your party guests.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we thought, as we were putting this together, I thought, well, since you already do this, and since technically we are the guests, you should be the host of our RADurday hot things. We haven't worked on the name yet. Challenge.
Okay.
Yay!
Now, was that just because I'm also bald and have classic good looks like Sean Evans?
Well, I fit that bill too.
Oh, sure.
So
Yeah,
I wasn't.
you could
looking,
have easily.
I wasn't looking for somebody to.
Well,
just,
okay, then I'm flattered. Okay.
I love that.
Hold on, so that means you're participating in this, Rob? You're going to be doing the Hot Ones challenge? Or the hot thingies?
I always thought you were. I just thought you at the same time were.
What?
Yeah.
I was confused because usually you don't host, you host it, you don't participate in the fun.
So like a quiz. I don't. Right. But
Okay, that's fair.
because this show, because the host Sean Evans, he participates. I would have to if I was going to be the host, but instead I'm one of the guests. So we're going to have Ian come on during the June 17th show, and he will be the participant. Now the question came up a little bit. Sometime we were talking about all this. First of all, we determined for our purposes, yes, we would have to let somebody quit if they want to, because there's a liability thing and such.
There's a nausea factor for some.
Great nausea! I gotta make it at least past the first one.
And when we were doing it on the fly, I said to Brandon, have you ever seen anyone tap out? And there's only like 200 of these episodes, and it turns out that 16 total people have tapped out. Some of the more notable ones, comedian Jim Gaffigan, Shaquille O'Neal couldn't do it, Tyra Banks, and Ricky Gervais, amongst others.
DJ Khaled has the worst tap out ever. It's so embarrassing.
Oh no!
He gets like 2 in. He's like, "This is too bad."
Oh my good.
Oh yeah, well, and that was when the show had a slightly different format. I think they only had 4 wings. It was very early on, so it went from mild to pretty hot fast.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but even still, like where he tapped out, I'd be very surprised if anybody here doesn't make it past.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm uncertain if I'll make it past the first one.
No,
I'd be
you'll
willing
make
to
it
do a
just
second one.
Yep.
Okay, I'm a mild salsa person.
Me too.
Really?
Yeah, totally. We did this the first day. There's so many funny experiences I've had doing this. So the first time we did it was just with friends, and we did the full 10 wings, and we didn't do the questions quite the same way. My wife has this like book of questions where you ask people like philosophical debate type questions. Does air have smell? Stuff like that. And so that was fun. But then we filmed one, and it's not something I wish I could share it, but it's one that it's Tech2U staff. We did it for fun for this video that we do at the end of every year, and that's where I really ramped it up, and we started doing some tricky questions, and there's a lot to this experience that everybody's going to get to see. It's not just eating hot wings one at a time and they get hotter. There are variables to it that are very difficult to explain until you're doing it. It's why it's so entertaining, and it takes a while. 10 wings, you can eat 10 wings how fast? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something. If you're being slow, 10 minutes, right? It's gonna take us 45 minutes just if there was one person that we were interviewing, but we've got 5. So
so let's talk about that. Since there are 5 of us, we're gonna do 10 questions still, and we're gonna split it up and direct. You're gonna come up with these questions, and you're gonna direct it at one member of the team who's gonna specifically answer it, and we will all interact either during or after that answer, right? So you're gonna like cater a question to me.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to start to answer, and everybody else can participate. And we've all taken a bite of our first wing or whatever it is, and then people can jump in. And then whenever we're done, when that's reached its level of okay, we've had that conversation. Now you're going to ask Dawn a specific Dawn question.
Sure.
Same thing, and then Brandon and so on.
And since we have time, I am still formulating my questions. If anybody is a fan of the show, they know that Sean Evans is known for coming up with really good questions, and I'm no Sean Evans when it comes to his ability to research and interview, but I would like to put some time into these questions. And that said, this is something we didn't talk about beforehand, but I would really love to open the door to the audience to give me some suggestions. And you can email me directly. I could use some ideas. Ian@tech2u.com. If you have some questions that you like, doesn't mean I'm going to use them, but shoot them my way, because I already have about half of them pretty well figured out, but I would like to make them spicy.
Well, I like that too, because we want whatever we're talking about to also be interesting to the people that are watching. Now, and again, the answers and the questions will get less interesting as we de-evolve as human beings as these wings get hotter and hotter.
They become significantly more interesting as you de-evolve. The thing that's interesting about these hot sauces is that once you get to a certain point, and by the way, Dawn, how far can you make it? My 10-year-old son made it to number 5, so just
oh, great.
just a little target.
Right.
I'm going to be worse than a kid.
There's the barometer of shame. You couldn't do what
Number
Ian's
5.
kid could do.
Yeah. But to be fair though, my wife puts the number 9 hot sauce on like salads. Whoa. And it is ridiculously hot. It's just so it's so over the top.
Well, I was saying on the air the other day, the other thing too about this being on RAD TV on June 17th is that I really, really like spicy food. But in the last 5 years, I have developed a very visible reaction to it where my wife thinks I'm suffering. I'm like, no, it's great. And she's like, babe, people are going to start thinking that you're dying. I mean, I profusely, what did I say? I look like
a wet eggplant.
A wet eggplant.
No.
And it'll happen quick.
No.
When I read that email last night, I audibly laughed out loud in my chair. A wet eggplant? Like that's just...
Do we need an EMT on standby in the corner
Sometimes
of the
they
room?
have one in the show.
Yeah, it's called 911.
I will,
because the rest of us have to keep going.
I will genuinely have some tips to help through when it happens, because people respond differently. And my very first time doing it, I did not physically respond well, and I've learned some technique, but it's easy. I didn't know nobody's thrown up, nobody's done anything, but I'm sure it can.
All right, so we're gonna have you back a few times as we get closer to June 17th.
Wonderful.
And it'll be live on Saturday, June 17th on RAD TV at members.radradio.com, and Ian will come back a few times and we'll start talking about what the rules are, and we'll debate some various other things. We'll talk about tips as we get closer and things like that. But we do also have an unfortunate 2023 announcement. As you've noticed, everything's going up in price, which means we have to increase the membership price. There's overhead and things. It's unavoidable with inflation, but we're going to do like we've done before. First of all, if you're already a member at members.radradio.com, you're locked in at your price. Your price is not increasing. You are locked in. Whenever you have to renew, you will pay the same thing that you already
That's nice.
pay. And that will be true for everyone up until June 17th, meaning if you join the membership site at any time between now and June 17th when we do our RADurday with our spicy wing eating thing, because we don't have a name yet, then you will be locked in at the current price of the membership site, $69.69, correct? Because we're children.
Well, have you come up with another silly price?
No.
It's kind of a threshold until we go to $420 a year. I think
Oh, maybe we should just jump to that.
we could.
But anyone who signs up between now and June 17th, you're locked in at the current membership site. All right, let's get to some other tech issues, and this is a perfect lead-in after what we just talked about. One of my pet peeves on this show over the years has been people who honestly believe that technology is not listening to us, following us, hearing what we say. Well, I got it on safe mode. No, you can't follow me. And then they don't understand how things like this happen. Now, this guy, he does understand it. Dimitri wrote in, and he sent a picture of his iWatch, and he says, I've never watched Hot Ones. It was right after one of the times we talked about Hot Ones. He says, I've never watched Hot Ones, and I don't have Hulu. But your show keeps mentioning your upcoming challenge, and he got this message. A new episode of Hot Ones is now on Hulu. He's in his car.
Yep.
Listening to us talk about a show he's never watched on a streaming service he doesn't have.
So there are things that do listen, and you allow them to, especially if you have something like even your phone. If you have an iPhone and you say, I don't want to light up everybody's phone on the radio, but if you say, "Hey Siri," it'll start listening like mine is now, and I have to talk. Tell it to stop.
My watch is
everybody's
start
stuff is going off,
responding.
or anybody with an Android. Okay, Google, and now everybody's Google device is wondering what's going to be said next. Sorry, everybody listening.
Do Alexa.
yeah, right. Yeah. So I can't even remember that one. So anyway, a lot of these devices, they're intended, they're designed to listen. That's their goal, is to have it, but they're supposed to have a keyword, and then they listen. And now the nerds like us, we can monitor traffic, not every single bit and byte of what is sent and received, but we can monitor traffic from these devices and tell you whether or not things are being sent that maybe at times that maybe they shouldn't. And for the most part, products like Apple's products, there's not really any definitive evidence that demonstrates that those products are listening and sending information back to the home base or whatever. That said, that's just Apple and their software and their hardware. But when you install other applications on your phone or your watch or whatever, they can listen. They're not supposed to. And there have been instances where we've found that things were listening maliciously, and they were used to do something as simple as just sending us ads, right? And really little things like that. But it leads to questions like, I was on a while back talking about TikTok and some of the things that they've done with that application, and a little malicious toward the United States. And that's the type of application where it gets enough scrutiny that it's under a microscope, so it's hard for them to listen and cheat and break the rules. But the hundreds or thousands of duplicate applications that try to do exactly what they do break those rules, and they do listen. And there's not much question about it.
Email's rad@radradio.com. You can call with any tech questions, 888-989-9811. We'll work our way up to AI. We had this email come in from Brittany.
Hey, Brittany.
Tech2U does everything. Of course, you started kind of at the baseline of the scary virus thing. She says, I had to call Tech2U because I had the scariest "you have a virus" alert pop up on my work computer. I've been working in billing and scheduling for many years. I've come across many of these fake alerts, and I usually just exit out of them. But this one I couldn't.
Oh.
My computer was completely demobilized, and this auto alert from supposedly Microsoft kept saying a virus had been detected. And if I attempted to shut down my computer without calling the help desk number first, my computer would be vulnerable to hackers.
Oh, boy.
I almost called the number because I was scared. I've never come across an alert like this. But then I remembered Ian from Tech2U saying something about similar alerts just a couple days ago. So I called Tech2U instead. And as soon as Chris came on the phone and heard what the message was, he forwarded me to Tony, who jumped into action. They were so nice and helpful. They didn't talk down to me like I was an idiot like most IT companies do.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm glad we didn't talk down to you. But that is incredibly common. That does happen. I said it last time I was on the air. It's probably 5-10 times a day that we get that phone call of, I have this ad, or not this ad, but this pop-up on my screen saying I have a virus and I have to call Microsoft. Just yesterday, one of our executives got a direct attack email trying to duplicate DocuSign and get his credentials to access his email account. It happens all the time. We're a target too, just because we're a little bit well known in the technical community for what clients that we have. So people want to come after us. Thankfully, we know how to look for these things, and we have even protections from ourselves. People slip up. You know, they open an email, they tap on the link, and oh my God, I shouldn't have tapped on that. So we have internal methods to even stop ourselves from those accidental clicks. Two-factor authentication. I can't stress it enough. That's another big one.
And you guys saved my onions a couple years ago now, I think it was. And I don't know if we ever even determined what the actual cause was. Probably just the porn that I watch. But it wasn't an attempt at stealing my ID, like by a phone call. Mm-hmm. But I'm just sitting there working, and I had the same effect in that suddenly my laptop was completely immobile. I could not work it. And you guys had to get in remotely, and it took a couple hours, but you cleaned it out and everything. We got this story from Martin.
Hey, Martin!
Says, my internet sucks. I have the allegedly fastest router through my internet company. I even got a Wi-Fi extender, but there are still issues. Me and my kids play a lot of online games, and my wife will use the smart TV in our room, but when we play our games, the TV in the room won't work. I assume the Wi-Fi is being overused. What would you suggest?
Yeah, it could be your router. Routers are the device in your house which spreads the internet to everything else in your house. And just like a computer, they have a processor. And sometimes that processor isn't powerful enough, and it can create issues like this. We do free estimates. Call us. We can even log in remotely and look at a computer and figure out how the network is set up.
Even at a house as big as Williams Manor, Tech2U figured out how we can have as fast as you can get Wi-Fi in every corner of the home.
That's nice.
Took them a couple trips because it's a very large.
A lot of things to install there.
All right, we got this question as we move towards artificial intelligence as well. We're talking to Ian from Tech2U. Says, is there a Chat GPT app for the Android phone?
There's no app that I'm aware of. Yeah, and this is a good thing to know too. When it comes to scams, if you Google ChatGPT, it'll take you to chatgpt.com or ads about other language learning models, which is what this is called. Somebody emailed in last time I was here about a lifetime membership. That doesn't exist. That was a website that was trying to replicate what ChatGPT is. It's OpenAI is the company who runs ChatGPT. That's the website you want to be on, is OpenAI's website.
See, and okay, now right away, I don't want to get ahead of us, but this will be your precursor for 10 minutes from now. Right away, we see how human beings are taking advantage of this technology to create all of these scams. How is it that they aren't going to take advantage of it to do something very evil? Let me ask this question first, though. We got Chris, the princess spreadsheeter in the gay area, who runs all our tabulations for WinRob's change. He wrote in and says, I keep trying to see if ChatGPT can run WinRob's change calculations and figure out the answer, to no avail. Every time when I get to a certain point in my line of questioning and refinement of its output, I get the something went wrong message. And clues are you're basically, Rob, your clues are breaking artificial intelligence. Thank you. He says, my presumption is that the tool is very good at natural language and very good at math, but still not very good at, quote, word problems. I would be curious to hear Ian's perspective.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is great at natural language, and we will talk a little bit more about that and why that's important. But also, there is a plugin that you can try to access. I don't know if it's live for everybody just yet, or if you need the paid account. But Wolfram Alpha is a website that is very, very good at math specifically, and now ChatGPT has connected to it, and you can use its capability of creating complex algorithms in ChatGPT, which is something that, as an artificial language model, it's not necessarily great at things outside of language. So that's why Wolfram Alpha, which is good at math, is a good add-in, and it can use both of those functions
They're
together.
teaming up already.
Oh my God!
Well, and to that point, almost everything has a positive application and a negative application, depending on how we use it, how we're allowed to use it, how people try to get away with it. So on the positive side, it seems like AI, for the most part, is really leaps and bounds in the medical industry, in all sorts of things, not just in diagnosis, but they did a study where they figured out that ChatGPT does a better job than human doctors do of answering questions, because this is a big thing now. Doctors are overloaded with emails and online forum questions and things like that, which means they're more tired. They're human. They're less apt to be doing their job. They don't answer quickly. So researchers compiled a random sample of 200 medical questions that actual patients had posted and that actual doctors had answered. They entered all of that, other than the answers, into ChatGPT and recorded its response, and then they had a panel of other healthcare professionals evaluate both sets of responses, and 80% of the time, ChatGPT did a better job of evaluating and answering the question and offering empathy than the actual human doctors who had answered the question. So the positive to that obviously could be alleviating the doctor's time. And Christ, we're already doing this naturally when ChatGPT, I mean, we do this with Google, right? We just all know, well, most of us know you don't get the answer from Google. When we know, oh, we're getting the answer, because it's not like, oh, I have to pick which one of these. This could revolutionize the medical industry.
Yeah, I mean, it can and is revolutionizing a lot of industry. And when it comes to the medical industry in particular, think of the doctor as what they are. They're a very intelligent person who spent years educating themselves on medical topics, right? Just like a computer repair technician, which I can relate to closely, I've spent decades learning my craft. And it doesn't necessarily make me the best people person, right? A lot of time, my type of person is going to be sort of a shut-in introvert. We don't talk with other people as often because we're very enthralled in technology. And I would imagine a lot of doctors are the same and therefore probably aren't very personable. Now you take a language learning model, you give it the intelligence of accessing medical databases, let's say, and you make it the best possible communicator. Its superpower is communication. It's very difficult to get a doctor who is both very, very good at their craft in the medical industry and also a phenomenal communicator. Okay, well, now what we do is we take a little bit of that doctor skill, the human element, we cut that down just a tiny bit, but we ramp up the communication capability tenfold. That's very valuable to a patient who feels unheard. So, yeah, I think that there's no question that this is going to get implemented in the medical industry.
And we've already talked about its ability to diagnose as it learns and things like that. So, again, lots of positive applications to
Totally.
this. All right. Well, we also got this email from Michael. The Master of Movies clip you played yesterday of iRobot inspired me to rewatch the movie last night. Wow, the uncanny relevancy is terrifying. It is imperative that we get a scientist to create a Sonny and an inquisitive cop with a robot arm ASAP. So this is the more sexy thing, is to worry about the bad side. And one of the most prominent faces in artificial intelligence research, Dr. Jeffrey Hinton, has left his position at Google. He did this a month ago for one reason: to warn about the dangers of rapid AI development. Hinton's award-winning researcher. He was director of AI development at Google, and he has come out saying, quote, "It is hard to see how you can prevent the bad actors, bad humans, from using AI for bad things." This guy's been creating this. Just a few months ago, he was referring to AI as a supernaturally precocious child. He compared AI innocently and lovely, training it as like two caterpillars feeding on nutrients to become butterflies. He called it humanity's butterfly, and now he's quit Google to tell us all stop. AI is out of control. And Ian, because you seem to be a little positive about this.
A little bit.
Okay. One of the smartest humans ever, Stephen Hawking, 10 years ago, was warning against what we're living through right now.
The primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful. But I think the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. Once humans develop artificial intelligence, it would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Humans, who are limited by slow biological evolution, couldn't compete and would be superseded.
First of all, full disclosure, that is not AI produced. We could have done that. That really is Stephen Hawking from 2014. You can Google it, you can find the clip. He said he believed almost 10 years ago that AI could be the end of the human race. In 40 seconds, he explained how and why. I've mentioned a few times, last time I was hanging out with all you guys, where I had like 5 tech heads at Tech2U, and we were all talking about this. But when you get to the point of, okay, but where's it going to lead? You all go in 5 different directions. And you do seem to be the most glass half full version. Sure. How do you answer Stephen Hawking and the godfather of AI from Google leaving and saying this is too much?
Yeah, there's a lot there, right? But first off, it's in my nature. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I have to live my life that way. But also, I've heard this quote from Stephen Hawking before, and it aligns a lot with what I think. There's a thesis called the orthogonality thesis, and it's very complex. And I don't fully. It's difficult for me to even fully comprehend it myself. But the basic concept of it is, if you give something a